Coming up on this week's episode of Taking Notes, I have the multi-talented That Chick Angel. You are not going to want to miss all the laughs, all the comedy, the journey, and how she has taken a love of musical theater and turned it into a whole empire. So stay tuned. Taking Notes with Dr. John Carroll.
Just take notes. 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 Just take notes.
Welcome, Angel, That Chick Angel, to Taking Notes. It is a pleasure to have you. I'm so excited to have you. And I'm just going to get right to it and start with, where does the legend of Angel
Okay, legend.
begin? Exactly. No, you are legendary, and we're going to get into why in a
Thank
bit.
you.
But where does the legend start?
The legend starts at being born the youngest of four girls to a single mom in Baltimore, Maryland. And we moved around a lot after I was 5. So we left Baltimore, moved to North Carolina. We lived in Greenville, North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina. Then we settled in Kentucky.
Okay.
So a lot of times when people ask me where I'm from, I say Baltimore by way of, or Kentucky by way of Baltimore, because both of those have a lot of influence on the person that I show up as today. So being the youngest of 4 girls, who I would say my family, looking back on it now as a mature adult, I think actually experienced a lot of trauma, but I didn't recognize it as a young girl. But I naturally took on the job of lightening the mood constantly. I found what was funny in every situation. It didn't matter how terrible the situation was. Well, also, I didn't even know if the situation was terrible, but I was always constant. We could be at a funeral. It didn't matter where we were. I'm going to find the joke and y'all going to laugh. And I would say around the age of 5, before I left Baltimore, like so many black girls, seeing The Cosby Show and seeing Keisha Knight Pulliam on the screen, and me and her around the same age, I was like, that I want to do whatever she's doing. I don't know what it's called, but that's what I want to do. So that trajectory never changed from the time that I was 5 till right now. So in Kentucky, I was doing church plays, school plays, just doing whatever I could do to entertain and writing my own stuff. And then when it was time to go to college, well, backtrack, I went to a creative performing arts school for dance. And I was very academically, I excelled a lot. And so when it was time for college, I wanted to go to an HBCU, but the University of Kentucky knew how to throw money at me in a way that I was just like, well, you know what, white people, it sounds great. We'll be here. And my sister had just graduated from there. So it was like I also knew the landscape. And I remember filling out my application, and I put for my major, I put what I wanted to do was pediatric nursing. And my sister looked at my application, was like, have you lost your mind? And I was like, well, I love babies and I would love to work with babies in the hospital. She's like, if you don't put theater down, I am going to hurt you.
I was about to say, where did that come from? Was that some kind of parental, like, yeah, you got this little acting thing, but you need to have a real job?
I think so. I think my mother was never that person. My mother would support me in doing whatever.
Okay.
I think the responsible church girl was just like, you can do acting,
Right.
but you don't major in that. You major in something that you go to school to do.
Right.
And then if acting takes off for you, great, but you're not about to spend time in school studying acting. Well, I did. And I got my degree in that. And then I went to New York, did the New York Fringe Festival.
Okay.
And that's when I realized, well, girl, you are not women. What is this, PG-13, 12?
This is whatever comes out of your mouth.
I was like, girl, you ain't shit. I was working with professionals. Some guy who just came out of Yale, a woman who had been working on television for, I don't know, probably longer than I had been alive. A black man by the name of Arthur French, who was literally in almost every black play that I had read. He was one of the original cast members.
Gotcha.
So I'm with people who were seasoned. And while I wasn't terrible, I wasn't consistently good in this play with them. It was like my performance, I could feel it fluctuate. And I was like, why can't I hone in on it? So that's what made me go, you're not about to be out here making a fool of yourself. So I decided to go to grad school. And that's what brought me to California. I went to UC Irvine and got my MFA in acting.
Now, why Irvine and not like in the city? Because Irvine is a different animal.
It is. Money. That's what gets me every time. Irvine was like, we got you. You don't have to look for nothing. We have a fellowship that you can have. And I said, well, here I come. It was here I come, Asian people. Now it wasn't just the white people. It was now the Asian people. You all can have me. And they also were, they were like in the top 10 MFA programs and at that time. So did that 3-year program. Moved up to LA right after I graduated. We showcased both in New York and in LA. And I thought New York was where I was going to land because I was such a theater person. Mm-hmm. And my reception in LA was so warm, which is odd because that's not what people usually, other than the weather, people don't usually categorize LA as a warm, loving place per se, but still the reception that I was getting from reps and casting directors, I was like, this is where I should do my start. And then I booked a job on ER as soon as I got up here and worked there for like 3 years as a guest star. And at this time, still, the career that I'm most, I guess, booming in currently still did not exist. Mm-hmm. The world of social media as a content creator did not exist while all of this was happening. So my whole trajectory was, how do I make film and television acting work, and then when I'm ready, switch back over to theater. So was hustling, bustling, doing that, and then lo and behold, my last season on ER, I end up pregnant.
Okay.
That is when I was like, oh, no. I said, nobody hires pregnant people. Right. Like, it's not in 2008 and 9. That was, you might as well go ahead and tell them you've retired. So I was like, oh, my God, what am I going to do? And my girlfriend, Brisha Webb, was like, the way you talk about pregnancy, I have never heard anyone talk about it. You should put that out. You should like put it up somewhere, like talk about it. And I was like, well, I don't like to write my thoughts. I'd rather record it. So YouTube existed. YouTube, I think, launched in 2006 or maybe 7, but it still wasn't a place where people made money.
The platform it is now.
No,
for sure.
Not at all. So I was like, well, since I'm not about to sit here and write like these mommy blogs, I'll make videos. So my career as a content creator started making content about my first pregnancy. And that is kind of how all of this kind of came to be. Came from there. And I didn't know who I was making content for. I didn't know who was listening. I didn't know who cared. But for me, it was a creative outlet I needed in order not to go crazy. Because I was just like, there's nothing for me to do. I was like, I'm just here, fat and pregnant, sitting in the house. I need something to do. So that's kind of how, in a nutshell, how we get to here.
And so before we even turned the mics on, you were talking about how in 23-ish, you said you were going to go through whatever open door. But it seems like you initially took a leap then.
Yeah, I guess so. You're right. And what's so crazy is my friends have watched me create content for the longest time. And I've been, again, creating content before this was a career.
Right.
And there was a time where I was creating, this is now after the pregnancy. I done had the child. I'm working again kind of as an actress, like still booking work, but I would still record videos. And I would say to them, I don't know why I'm doing this, but for some reason I'm feeling led to do it. It really wasn't until maybe 2020 where it all was like, and this is why you've been doing this since 2009. Because everything kind of like, the switch kind of like flipped finally. Because it always felt like I was juggling these two careers that could not work together. I was juggling auditions and trying to do acting work, and then juggling trying to be consistent, posting content that I didn't even know what I should be, because there's no roadmap at all. So it's like, what should I be talking about? Should I be talking about motherhood? Should I be talking about current events? Should I be talking about marriage and family? I'm like, I don't know. Should I be doing sketches? Like, what am I supposed to be putting up in this space that's the Wild Wild West? But also, this is the thing that's more serious. So when this happens, you need to ignore this, because this is the thing. When a casting director calls or when you book a job, this is no longer exist. So, and also by this time, I've started stand-up. And that happened because, and this is a shame, there was a dude that worked out at the gym that me and my homegirls worked out. So again, Brisha Webb and my other homegirl, very close homegirl, Denora Walcott. And he had to sell tickets to his bringer show. So the comedy store if for some of their shows, if you're a comedian, they give you 20 tickets, you got to sell them 20 tickets or 10 or whatever. So we were like, okay, we'll support you. We go to the show. And if there were 7 comics, 8 comics were terrible. Okay. They were awful. Stank up that place. Like I said, probably a ghost came up in there and told terrible jokes too. And I was like, wow. But I was like, at the same time, I was like, I commend them because they got up there and did it.
Yeah.
I was like, I could sit here and say those were terrible jokes. That is the truth. They were.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they got up
there
and they did it. So literally sitting in the Comedy Store, I looked at them and I was like, before I turned 30, we're all doing stand-up. Yeah, they did not ask to be on this journey. I just was like, you are now forced.
So your homie Brisha owes her stand-up chops to, in that moment.
In that moment, we were all just going to start doing like open mics, but we ended up taking a class by a good friend of mine. She's now a good friend of mine. Her name is Lisa Sunstead. She teaches an all-women stand-up comedy class called Pretty Funny Women.
Okay.
It's a 6-week class, and she shows you how to compose a joke. You study your favorite comedian, and you look at the structure of their jokes, and you try to figure out how to create the tension between your setup and your punchline.
So who was your person?
At that time, it was Kevin Hart, and this is before he had blew up.
Wow.
This is before he had did A Grown Little Man. I remember bringing him up in class, and she was like, I've never heard of him. And I said, I'm telling you right now, he's about to be the next big thing. I was like, he's about to be the next big thing. I think I'm A Grown Little Man had only, before we had started the class, had only been out for maybe a month or so. But there was something about his storytelling that I was just like, oh, this is magical.
Well, and if you were talking about family and stuff, a lot of his early stuff was him and his, girlfriend then wife. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that probably was somewhat relatable.
It was actually the beginning. It was his ex-wife, Tori, that he was talking about that in all their fights and explosions.
100%. Yes. Exactly.
And it was this beauty of him. What felt like was just telling the truth of his faults, his flaws, and being okay with kind of making fun of himself while also keeping a big hit at the same time.
Right. That
I thought was just like, yes, this is it right here. I don't mind taking this journey with you. I love this. Like, while I also love a good setup punchline that's fast, like when somebody is like rapid fire with it, I also love when someone can tell me a story and I'm so entertained by the story.
Yes.
I don't care when I laugh. I mean, I want to, but I'm not rushed to be like, okay, when is the punchline? So that was who I brought in. It was so funny. She was like, I've never heard of him, because he was still in the bigger space of entertainment, not known well. Yeah.
So now I was thinking about this. You have, in my mind, kind of 6 infinity stones.
Okay, please let me hear what they are.
So the infinity stones that I've observed being a fan of you are comedy. You've been in our comedy fundraise before for, now it is to be Jabali Academy. Comedy, content creation. So we've kind of heard that story already. Acting, singing. We haven't gotten to that yet. Podcasting and hosting.
Yeah.
So 6 infinity stones.
I'll take them.
And so we've heard about 3.
Uh-huh.
And so is it that whatever comes along, you're just like, oh, I can do that.
No,
and I'm going to find my way to put my spin on it.
I don't actually I don't think I think, oh, I can do that. It feels like a door opens because, so if we talk about singing or whatever I have done in music or plan on doing in music, I have sang all of my life, but I have such a respect for people who I know can sing down that I've never made that my opening, like, of I'm Angel and I'm a singer.
Right.
I know I can sing. I know I have a good ear. I know I have a strong ear. I know when I sound bad. I know when I sound good.
Right.
But I have always had this, it's probably more so imposter syndrome, where I give so much respect to someone who has trained in that specific thing. If I have not done that same amount of training, I go, oh, that ain't me. Right. So with singing and anything in music, I always paired it with maybe musical theater.
Okay.
And I was like, that's where singing will take place for me, not separate of. It always had to pair with something. It was like, you're not just going to get me up here singing. It's got to pair with something else. Well, then in 2023, when I was doing Here's the Thing, the podcasts, and I'll give the origin story of how I even started podcasting. But I was doing Here's the Thing, which is a podcast I do with Kev on stage. I was looking at our docket. We have a docket that we look at for the current events, and I saw the sermon of this very bigger than life personality minister that travels, and she was doing an abstinence sermon, and it was definitely meant to be shock and awe as she's talking about how many margaritas if you purchase for a young lady, what she will do if you give her a margarita, right? And I think her intention, besides shocking people, was really to shame folk, to make them feel like, well, if you do this, this will happen. And I was like, well, actually, this sounds like a good time to me, and it sounds like it should be on like some sort of trap beat. So when we started the podcast, I was like, give me a beat, Kevin. I'm a freestyle. And luckily, working with Kevin, he's willing to go down whatever foolish journey.
And seemingly ready.
Yeah.
Like had a beat.
Yeah. He was just like, luckily, we've worked together long enough that we trust each other, that whatever this thing that is that we're about to do will either land or it'll burn, but we'll still make it funny.
Right.
I've freestyled for most of my life, and typically the plane crashes before I get to the end. Usually it is a terrible, terrible, terrible freestyle unless I am very drunk. Then usually words become, well, I was very sober, and somehow the plane had the smoothest landing. And I was like, ooh, that was fire. Like, I was like, you can't tell me nothing. And I knew it was so much fire that I was like, let me clip this piece of the episode and put it up on my social media. Because what I knew was that a producer would put a beat behind it, like a real beat. I was like, I know for certain, but that was as far as I thought it was going to go. I was like, it'll be fun. There'll be a beat behind it and people might share it. Well, then it just kind of grew into this whole other thing. And the producers that put a beat behind it, they hit me up and they were like, hey, we really think that we can turn this into a whole song. Would you be down? Because obviously they needed my permission. Right. That's when I made that prayer beforehand, because I was like, I don't want to get taken advantage of. I know the music industry, probably out of all the entertainment industries, has the least amount of guardrails. Mm-hmm. People take advantage of folk like nobody's business over there. So I was just like, I'm too grown and too old. I'm already 40. I'm too old to be taken advantage of. So I was like, Lord, like, please protect me. But I promise I'll walk through whatever door you open for me to go through. And so before I even, this was a DM they sent me. So before I even answered their DM, I wrote the rest of the song.
Wow.
I was just like, let me see if I can write it. Wrote it in about 30 minutes.
Had you written a song before?
I used to have a songwriting group.
Okay.
Yeah, back in the day, called Second Degree Entertainment. We wrote about 3 songs, did nothing with them. It was 4 Black women who all had their master's degree, all had their MFA. That's why it was called Second Degree. And we worked with different producers and did nothing with those songs.
But you got 3 songs.
Yes, we had 3 songs.
And you had the skill set.
Yes, exactly. So we talked. We came up with an agreement. We put the song together. They put it out. And luckily, the pairing was great. They had the fact that I was already known in social media, so they weren't taking someone who was kind of out of like oblivion. It was somebody who had some sort of status. And then they already had a lot of knowledge in music because they are producers and they're still up and coming, but they know what they're doing. Right. So they put the song out and that thing picked up. Like, I mean, this is without anybody's help, any outside help, any money put into marketing. It just started to like grow. And so then they were like, record labels started to hit us up left and right. And that's when I was really pumping the brakes. I was like, no, thank you.
Right.
No, thank you. No, thank you. They were like, Angel, can we consider it? I was like, I really am not interested. I was like, but if y'all really want to take the meetings, we'll take the meetings. But to be honest, I'm not interested.
Right.
And so we took like the first couple of meetings and I was just like, and I got the advice from my good friend who now manages the musical side of my career, David S. is what he goes by. He was just like, do not sell your song. And if they're not coming up to this amount, you should not be taking no type of deal. So I went back to the boys. I was like, they're going to have to offer a nice penny.
Right.
I said, because we have to split it. Like, it's not just me. It's the 3 of us.
Right.
And so they started to give up hope. And I was like, The song is still booming. I was like, it's going to be fine. I said, and we still have not put any money into this song. Like, we have put
Before
in.
you shoot the video.
We haven't done anything.
Gotcha.
And BET Weekend, I think their manager ran into one of the people in A&R or something over at Giant Music, which is a smaller record label. And they were like, wait a minute. How come we did not know about this? And then they had a meeting with us. They came up to the price that we wanted. And I said, look, it worked out. It works out. So it was great working with that. I'm no longer under that label. I was like, I just want to do it for this song. And then you let me out of that. Thank you very much. But got to work with Saucy Santana. Got to work with Sexy Red, Flo Milli, Fendi the Rapper, Snow the Product. It was like, and what was crazy is I kept thinking, this is insane. Like, this is such a joke. I'm in my 40s and I'm rapping with these little itty bitty rap girlies. But none of them took it as a joke.
They took you seriously.
Yes.
From jump.
And I said, Angel, you need to look at yourself right now because nobody else is laughing at you. You are laughing at yourself. Wow. Everybody else is taking their commitment to this song seriously. They're coming in, they writing their lyrics, they're, sharing it out on social media. And I was like, and you're over here like, what? This is stupid. But I was like, you know what? But why? Why does it have to be stupid? Like, I get it. Obviously, ideally, you want to be young if you're going to be doing music and come up in it. But I was like, but why? I don't really have to. Like, the landscape has changed so much with entertainment. There's so many rules that I upheld in my head for so long that did not benefit me in no way, shape, or form.
Like what?
Content creation in theater television work. This is the serious thing. This is not. If this happens, you can't take this seriously.
Gotcha.
But then I saw people taking this seriously, and then all of a sudden they're getting jobs over here,
right,
without even auditioning. And I said, no, wait a minute.
Right.
I did the rule that y'all said, because I remember when reality TV first took off and everybody turned their nose up at reality TV stars. Like, oh, no. But then all of a sudden they're getting all these franchises and all these opportunities that an actor on television would die to have. Right. So I realized, this holier than thou pompous rule that we have of being trained actors is helping whom? Only our ego, but our ego is broke. So you and your ego gonna have this ramen noodles, okay? And while they are doing stuff that they love and have control over and getting the opportunities that you would beg to have. So that is, I'm finding myself, being someone who grew up in the church in very kind of a strict environment. Mm-hmm. My therapist was like, what I can see is, she's like, I grew up in the same type of environment. We are so beholden to rules that the rules supersede everything else. She was like, but you're not in the military. That's the only time that it helps you in your career. She was like, in the creative arts and in the entertainment industry, it's actually best if you can find the loopholes. It's actually best if you can find ways to break the rules to get to what you want. So she was like, you have to start figuring out how to create your own rules so that you're not worried about rules that you find other people breaking and then soaring right past you. So that part has been a journey. So music is becoming more of a part of what my plan, and we're going to see. Mm-hmm. My plan is to do, is to finish these 5 songs that I've written and create a one-woman show around them to tour that. So that's me being like, how can I take things that I do, marry them together instead of trying to keep them separate, and feel like I'm still giving my audience what I actually want to give them, which is authenticity, which is joy, which is levity, but also not feeling so afraid of what I'm doing, because I'm like, if it's something that I've created, I feel comfortable with it, I'm
and
like,
you'll
it's mine.
own that, which I love.
Yes.
Like, nobody will be able to say, I get a piece of that. No, that's all.
It's mine.
It's all your stuff.
Yes, it's mine.
Well, and speaking of which, there's the mind, but then there's also your better half, who is a hard to tell willing or unwilling participant.
Fully unwilling.
Like, at this point, it's been a couple of years. So I'm like, okay, has Marcus bought into the fact that he's just now team That Chick Angel? Like he is as much a part of the production as, or is it still like when you come to him?
That still happens.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the price that I pay. That's I have been trying to get him on this train. So podcasting was how I kind of got him onto this train. We've been doing our podcast for 9 years.
Okay.
So longer than most people's podcasts have existed. We were doing it before podcasts were like really the hot trend that it is now. And this is because my audience asked for a podcast from us. And I was just like, okay. And I told him about it. And that was one things he wasn't reluctant about doing.
Okay.
Like family vlogs, he would be like, this is stupid. Why are we talking about our life? We're not doing anything. I said, I don't know, but I feel led to do it. So this is what I'm doing. So he wouldn't really be in the vlogs like that. But podcasting, he was like, okay, I mean, we just in front of a mic talking. That's fine. So we did that for a while. Wasn't lucrative, but again, we kept on it. Right. Again, 2020 is when a lot of things changed just because everybody turned to online for their entertainment.
100%. And had the time to focus.
Absolutely. Because you're not just competing against other podcasts. You're competing against television shows. You're competing against movies. You're competing against
outside.
Exactly. Family events, anything. So it was with COVID, everybody had to turn inside, and our podcast was there with tons of episodes. Like, y'all get in there, enjoy. Then in 2021, I had so many opportunities coming at me, and I had to sit there and show him like money and budget. I said, it's actually costing me money for you to still be on your job. I was like, because there's opportunities. I want you to see how many opportunities I have to turn down because we have no backup. Like, I am the backup for the children. I am the first and backup in third string, because once he goes to work, it has to be a severe emergency for him to be able to come off of work. Gotcha. So typically it's me, or I've had to beg one of my friends, hey, can you grab my child from the bus stop? It's never been like it's real simple. We'll just have my mother. My mother now lives out here, but at that time she did not. No sisters out here. We are our own family. So I was like, I could go on tour if you weren't working. If I did this many cities, which is what I would do, this is how much money it would bring in. I'm showing him all this. And he's like, okay, well, show it to me without my salary in there. And I said, I didn't put your salary in there.
Oh.
Right. And he was like, I said, so you hate your job. So I'm not sure why you're fighting me to stay there. I was like, if you just come over here and do this with me full time, life could be so much easier. So very scared, which I get, very scared. He came off his job in spring of 2021, and we have worked together full time since then. And when I tell you that man will fight me tooth and nails all the time, but always we go back to, but would you like to be doing what you were doing? And he's like, you absolutely right. I would not, but I'm still going to complain. He's like, this is just a part of it. I'm going to do the thing you're asking me to do.
Right.
I'm going to complain all the way up to it, though. So just let me have my process. And I'm like, okay, I'll pay that price. That's fine. Because I am goofy. I am very foolish at a lot of times. He is too, but he likes to keep that private to me. And I'm like,
Nope,
monetize it.
You're going to put it on this screen. No, Tanksley Tried It is when I need a laugh, 100%. I can count on you two every single time. Tanksley Tried It, never fails.
And this is what's so bad. Marcus knows I would do this even if we weren't filming. We used to watch American Ninja Warrior, where they would do and also Wipeout, where you're doing all these physical things that look virtually impossible. And in my head, I'm like, I want to try it. I want to see what would happen. And he's like, why? You're not going to make it past the first thing. And I'm like, you don't know. You have no idea what could possibly happen. So he knows that like my brain already is on these foolish things. And it just ended up being unfortunate for him that when we started filming them, they were performing so well. And it was just like, we are not about to stop these. I was like, I'm so sorry. I know you hate them. I was like, but I said, it's low-hanging fruit, and I'm going to take all the low-hanging fruit we can have. I was like, and these are so simple to do. So he hates them. I mean, literally, people like, he's acting. I'm like, no.
No, it's real.
Oh, yeah.
as a husband who has a wife who also has a silly side, like I know the looks that he gives. Like, where are we going?
So he'd be like, Angel, like, why? I'd be like, but our love will get us through this. Come on. If you don't mind. People like, he's got to be acting. I said, I promise you, he is not. Like, there are times where he does want to laugh at me. He still just does not want to do the challenge at all. It's just like, if we could just do something else. And I'm like, do you have the something else? You don't. So let's do these challenges. Thank you so much.
Does it strengthen your family bond that you are now just focused on this thing? Like, he's not trying to do some other career or...
Oh, my God, yes. One, it's good for his mental health. He really did not like his other career. And it was really taking a toll on him. And I took that very seriously. And it was just trying to get him like warmed back up after leaving a job that he did not enjoy, to be like, well, now you home with us. We not them, so... but it's also hard to ask a man who is just like, why am I in the, like, it was almost like for him, like, what else do I want to do in life? Because this is not, I can't see myself doing this for 10 more years. So you got that mental anguish, but I'm also needing you to be chipper for our children, right. Happy that you're home, but it's not as if it like cut off like a switch. It's not severance, right. Like all that mental weight is still on him when he walks into the house with us. So now we don't have that. Like, that is not even a part of, he has the weight of me on his back, yes, but not
trying to hold you up in the air,
right? Yes, but not the mental weight of like that's over. Once that's over. He's back to enjoying himself, being able to be more active in his son's lives. Like, even though I was juggling 15 million things, my kids had such a priority. Like, the way I was volunteering at them schools, like, they won't see my black face every opportunity.
I mean, I got to know you at track meets. Like, before I even knew of all the stuff.
Yes.
You were at track meets, welcoming your babies to the finish line.
Exactly. And that has not changed. Still 100%. At track meets, still at cross country meets, doing
putting
the
spikes
same thing.
in your child's shoes, as I saw in a recent.
Yes. At Howard. At the school, at the HW, just sitting there like, okay, you gonna do? How you gonna do? So he now is experiencing some of that world as well. He's a huge volunteer at the school, which I love, because typically it is the mother that they see.
100%.
But I'm like, oh no, you're about to see this 6'5" black man up in here too. And so when you have something to tell us about our child, you can tell us both.
100%.
And I think we actually get to have so much fun together. Like he and I do. We just went and hosted something in Dallas for the Potter's House Church. And he recently was like, I really cannot believe this is our life. I was like, they actually paid us to come and host this event. I said, you're welcome. Trying to tell you didn't want to see the vision, but that's okay. So I think dynamic, at first we did have to figure out kind of like a different language, because we were used to communicating as husband and wife. We were used to communicating as mom and dad. Mm-hmm. Then we had to figure out how to communicate as business partners, especially as business partners, one who has 10 years on you versus him coming in kind of fresh and new. But like, you are my peer, but also I have more knowledge than you, but also trying to figure out how to talk to you as my peer, but also being like, no, but I do know this. So just
a little bit more.
I just need you to listen to me right now. So that was definitely a journey that we had to go through, but I think we've gotten so much better. Like, I've gotten so much better, and I think he's also gotten a lot better at also receiving what I'm saying without it's knowing the intention behind what I'm saying versus turning the intention in something negative, and me also realizing sometimes I don't actually have to say anything. Mm-hmm. He can just do it that way, and I can just shut up. So that has been a huge growth for us.
You mentioned Keisha and Ipullium in the beginning. Is there a Cosby-like Tanksley vehicle that at some point gets done? Because I can hope see so. It.
I want to. That is one of the things that I would like to write. I was literally pitching it, I want to say back in November. I have had a very up and down roller coaster in the industry as an actress. Mm-hmm. And it would be to the point where it would feel like if you watched a television show and you saw somebody always almost getting to their goal, and then it just being snatched away, but in a comedic way. But you always just like, something's going to happen and it's just not going to happen for them. I felt like there was something comedic, even though at the times that these things would happen, I would be devastated. But still, at the same time, I'm like, there's something real about that. And there's also something funny about that. And being the only female voice in my household, I was like, I feel like there is a vehicle with that, of this family that's just really at the core of them. They love each other, but also they are big dreamers, especially the mama. Very big dreamer. And for some reason believes that like this big dream is worth pursuing. There's nothing about it that's insane. There's nothing about it that doesn't make sense and should be given up on. And this household of men that have been like, well, all right, we gonna be here for this ride. Right. So I hope so. I do. I hope so. I would be elated if something like that happened.
I can see it though. You work with Kev. Kev has his own thing. Churchy made it happen. Does that become a blueprint for like he went and made that based on his belief and his lifestyle? Does it?
No, I would never use Kevin's blueprint, and I love him dearly. Kevin put so much money in that daggone project, so much of his own. Him and Melissa, let me tell you, they have worked their butts off, and they have luckily.
It's so evident.
Yes, 100%. They've worked their butts off, and what they will do is they will bet on themselves. I mean, at a high penny. And one thing about Kevin that is a blessing to him is that he is oblivious to rules, oblivious to, okay, now it's not going to do what you think it's about to do. So then he'll just run on and do it. As he gets towards the end, he starts to see all the things that were kind of said before, but he still somehow army crawls. Him and Melissa will army crawl over the finish line, and the thing will be done. Me getting to see an up close seat of the anguish of the army crawl over the finish line lets me know that's not the path I'm going to go. It is not the path. I'm so proud of my friend. I'm so proud of both of my friends. But that watching that, trying to like, I'm like, there's another path, and the Lord will show me where the path is. And it might be that it might be a path that looks a little bit closer to an Issa path, or even a Quinta path. And not to say, I'm not trying to put that their path was easier. No. I just got to see theirs up close, and it made it very unattractive for me to do that. So I said, we'll just try to find another path. But what I will say is, again, him being oblivious to a lot of the ways things go. Like, he's like, oh, I could shoot a whole television show for a nickel. And I'm like, no, it is a lot of nickels. It's millions of nickels. He's like, nah, we can shoot it for a nickel. And it'll look like, oh, you're about to do it. Then all of a sudden, all the reason why it can't be shot for a nickel start to happen towards the end. And it's just like, wait, and I'm like, yeah, see, that's what I had thought. But
I told you back here.
Yeah, that's what I had thought. But you know what? You did. And that's what, when he did season 1, I was like, well, what no one can take from you is you shot season 1. You paid for, you and your wife with y'all's own money, no other investor paid for this to be shot, and you did it. Then they sold the show. I said, I don't know many people who can. I know people who sell shows, but not sell shows that they finance, produce themselves. Yeah. I said, I know, I think Tyler Perry has done it. I said, but I don't really know if I can name many other people who have done that. But again, no. And my husband would never. The type of money that they spent, my husband would be like, you have lost your money. He'd be like, we'll do another Tanksley's Tried It before we spend that much money. Nah, absolutely not. Yeah, so, no, but hats off to them. They are, what's great about them is that they do things like no one has ever done before. Like when it comes to the internet being a Wild Wild West, and even when it came to how they got their IP created, like, they create paths that nobody else is like. I'm like, do you not see all the woods? They're like, no, we see a path. And I would be like, no, I do not see it. They see a path and they carve their way through. So, I mean, my hats is so, there are a lot of ways that I take advice from them, a lot. And there's a lot of ways that I do follow his blueprint. But I, being the youngest, also the youngest child mentality is that we learn from other people
100%.
Watching because I'm like, I don't want to make whatever mistake you made. I want to learn from it. I don't want to make it.
I don't want to do it. Last question I have, and then we're going to switch to part 2, is we talked about your infinity stones. So let's go over them again. There's acting, comedy, singing, hosting, podcasting.
Content? Did we say content?
Did I say content?
I don't know.
Well, you got 6 of them.
Acting, podcasting, singing, podcasting, hosting, content.
So if I strip you of 5, I'm the Avengers and I pulled 5 out and you only got 1 left. Which one do you keep?
Oh my gosh. In today's day and age, it would have to be content creation. But I would have said 2019, I would have left acting. I've been like, you give that to me. You don't touch it. Yeah. I think because the landscape of the industry of acting has changed. So Hollywood has changed. So we don't know what it is right now.
Nope.
We're all looking at it like, what do you, it's like watching an egg hatch and we don't know what type of animal is about to pop out, but we're still watching it hatch and there's still nothing for me to do but watch it hatch. Right. So it's hard for me to be like, this is the only thing I ever want to do when I don't even know what is going to be possible outside of me creating my own stuff. Right. So what content creation gave me was the ability to still entertain, to still be funny, and to make money. In acting has decided that it's going to take a little break. And I got kids to feed. I have 4 kids in private school. Mm-hmm. So I can't sit here and wait for whatever 2-headed demon cracks up out of this egg that we're waiting to hatch. So, but acting will always be my first love. It'll always be the reason. That's the reason why I am here. I would not be in this expensive ass town if it was not for acting. And if ever it comes to my head that that season of my life is over, I don't see how I would be able to stay here. Like, what would be my reasoning for spending all of this money? All of this money. Yeah. So right now it's content creating. I truly, like, with all of my heart, hope that it switches back to acting. I hope the industry makes it so that actors can begin to really, not the small few, but more of us to be able to make a good living. Because for the longest time, I made a fantastic living off of acting and voiceover work and everything. But now it does not look the same. Now my residuals look good, but I want to actually work in front of the camera again in that way. So we'll see. But yeah, content creation, y'all would have to rip that out of my cold, dead hands. I mean, I know we boycotting everything right now. I was like, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to be on this IG. I'm going to be on it. Right. I know Mark Zuckerberg probably doing some stuff he shouldn't be doing, but I'm going to be over here, okay? I'm not going nowhere, no time soon.
You are not the only one making that choice. Yeah. Well, Angel, thank you for part 1. I'm going to allow you to drink some of this pretty drink that you have here.
Thank you.
And then we're going to come back and talk about the NAACP Image Awards, which you are going to be all over.
Yes, I will.
All righty.